Hi guys, today we'll be talking about my airbrush setup, what materials I use, try and answer a few of your questions. I'll try and keep it consistent to get this video to be as short as it can be. If there's anything I don't answer, then please just ask the question below, drop a comment, and I will surely get back to you. So we'll be speaking about what airbrush I use, what paints I use, reducer, cleaner, masking, stencils, etc. So we'll start off by what airbrush I use. These inexpensive Chinese brand airbrushes, and you can buy them off eBay for about 12 or 13 pounds each. So they're good for what they are, what they cost. I have 4 airbrushes in total, 5 if you count the minigun. This is the one you'll see me use the most. It's my oldest airbrush. I've had this for ages, just because I throw any kind of paint in there when I'm testing paints, etc. And I'll rather use that one than ruin my new ones, because some paints do clog up more than others. So the way I have it is, that one's for practice, which is the oldest one. This one is for just normal, for t-shirt, and then I have my newest one, which I only shoot Createx and Wicked paints through there. They're essentially the same inexpensive airbrushes. I also have another one which I've had for ages, suction feed one. I don't really use it that often. I find that the cup normally gets in my way, but again, that's a personal preference. Then I have a mini spray gun. I use that to spray the larger areas, or spray thicker paints through. It's an inexpensive touch-up gun. It costs about the same as one of these airbrushes. If you've watched my other videos, you'll see that I actually made this hose out of a fish tank tube, because mine kept breaking, they weren't long enough. It works great. Again guys, you have to bear in mind that I don't have that much money to spend on materials, so I go cheap when I can. As things progress and I can afford better stuff, then I will do. If you can have an eye water as an airbrush, then go for it. But you can see what results I achieve. I can improve loads on there still with inexpensive stuff. So you don't need to go out and spend a whole lot of money on all these brands to get started. You can have fun with without spending that much money. My needles I get off eBay again, and they cost me about £1 each. So they for these airbrushes, they're pretty standard, and they'll fit most airbrushes. So they aren't milled as well as if you're going to buy an expensive brand one, but you do tend to bend these, or at least I do quite a lot when you're airbrushing without a cap on to get closer to your artwork. So this works out fine as well. Again, it's cheap, and that's what I use. Okay, my compressor is just a normal standard compressor from that you'll find in your garage. If you don't already have an air compressor, then you can get a cheap Airbrush one as well. For about £50 you can get one off eBay. You know, it's not going to be the best compressor, it's not going to be the most silent compressor, but it will work. Next up, paint. I have a video about paint. Mainly I use just cheap acrylic craft paint to practice and for my own little projects, and then I clear it after I'm done. It works out pretty well. Now you will have a harder time reducing them, but it's a matter of practice and trying out new ratios, etc. I get them to work fairly well for the price you pay, and a 2-ounce bottle will cost me about £1.50, and it will give me anywhere from 4 to 6 ounces of paint after being reduced. For better results I use Createx and Wicked colors, but they are more expensive. For 2 ounces you'll pay about £6 a bottle, and you'll only really get, if you thin them down, which some you don't, but if you do, you'll only get an extra ounce out of it, not more than that. So they are more expensive. Again, if you can afford practicing with Createx, then fine. So let's talk about reducer. For reducer I use Windex or Windolin, depends what country you're in, which is basically window cleaner. For the crafts paint, the cheap acrylic ones, I reduce them with Windex straight from the bottle. Obviously I put them in small bottles for it to be easier to handle and to have around, but I use them straight. I use it straight from the bottle. I don't reduce the cheaper paints with water because it tends to break up the paint a bit, and I get adhesion problems. So this works really well. I'll sometimes add some liquid glycerin to the mix just to improve flow. So masking. What do I use for masking? Some people have asked me that as well. Well, I use your normal cheap masking tape. Now this can be quite aggressive sometimes. It sticks quite a lot. What I do is I always stick it on either my cutting mat or a cotton t-shirt or something, just to take some of the adhesive away, and that works out great for me. Another good trick you can use is give your artwork some Intercoat clear before masking. You can use normal clear as well in between masking, but normal clear will obviously take much longer to dry. It is a faster way of doing things, and it's safer because if you mask on top of clear, it won't peel as much. Clear is much harder than actual paint. I normally cut out my own fine line for my personal projects. If I want to get better results, then I'll use proper fine line, but it is more expensive, so I try to keep that, you know, for the things that I want to come out really well. If it's just practice, then, you know, we can afford to have a few imperfections. That's okay. I also use transfer tape Now transfer tape is what sign makers use for transferring vinyl onto their surfaces. This isn't actually that expensive if you take into account how much you get in a roll. You can see obviously how many of these you'll get in there. So that's going to cost you about £10 or so for a roll this size. You can get them in many sizes. This one works out well for me. I can layer a few strips down if I need to cover a bigger area, and you know, it's easy to manage. If you have a very big roll, then you know it's harder to work with. So that's what I use. When masking, I do also use vinyl stickers, and this is a more expensive option, but if you're looking for a very clean line, then that's the way to go, especially on letters and stuff like that. I get these off Peels for You. You can find them on eBay. They're really cheap prices. Right, so for cleaning I use just Windex mixed up with water, half of each, and I'll spray it through my airbrush when I change colors, etc. I made my own little cleaner pot. If you can afford one off eBay or whatever, then you know, go ahead and buy one. If you can't, then this is a cheap option you can make yourself. Essentially it's the same thing. You can actually fit proper filters in there as well if you like. I use water-based paint, so it's just to stop the mess and the spray in the air, etc. So I just spray it into there and then get rid of what's in there, dispose of that properly when I'm done. That works out well for me. You know, somebody hated on that video. They didn't like my idea of making my own cleaning pot. You know, it works for me. If you don't want to, you don't have to make one. The respirator. Now guys, you know, use your respirators. You can get these depending on, you know, how much you have to spend, but you can get them fairly cheap. For about 13 or 14 pounds you can get one. You don't want to be breathing in a whole lot of stuff, even though the paints are water based. You don't want that to dry up in your lungs and things like that. So I think I've covered pretty much everything I can remember. If there's anything else I can explain or you'd like to know, then just drop a comment in the comment box. I will catch you soon, and let me just say big thank you to all you guys who've been watching my videos. It keeps me making more. I'm glad I can help some of you guys. I always have some small airbrush tips, mainly for beginners, but I'm sure we can all learn something off each other. So, you know, and if some of the things don't work for you, then leave a comment anyway, and tell me what problems you had. Maybe I've had them in the past and had a way of going around it. So this video is getting way too long, so guys, I will catch you soon, and thanks for watching.